Hello friends, I have an interesting essay for you today. It is the essay titled On Finding Things, written by E.V. Lucas. Now E.V. Lucas, or Edward Verrell Lucas, is a British writer. He was born in 1968 and died in 1938. He lived for long 70 years. He has written essays, novels, travel books, plays, short stories, and art criticism. He has also made a remarkable contribution uh, to English literature by writing a biography of Charles Lamb titled The Life of Charles Lamb. He wrote essays on a wide range of subjects. His essays are usually humorous, witty, and quite sarcastic too at times. Now, this particular essay on finding things is taken from his collection titled Adventures and Enthusiasms. It's not a very long one. So let me just start reading. We'll go paragraph by paragraph. In the essay on finding things, E.V. Lucas tells us about the experience of finding something quite unexpectedly. Not something that you're looking for, but then sometimes it happens while you're walking through the road or you're traveling somewhere, and then you find that something is lying there. Maybe it might be a coin, it can be anything that somebody has forgotten, somebody has lost, and you find it. So, this essay is about on finding things. So, let's begin reading. After the passage of several years since I had picked up anything, last week I found successively a carriage key in Royal Hospital Road, a brooch in Street, Kensington, and sixpence in a third-class compartment. It was as I stooped to pick up the sixpence, which had suddenly gleamed at me under the seat of the now empty carriage, that I said to myself that finding things is one of the purest of earthly joys, and how rare. So he begins by saying that for a long time he had not had this fortune of finding something, picking up something that was lost by somebody else. But after a long gap of several years, just recently, he says, I happened to find three things successively. That is maybe a day after the other. Or so, like, I mean, successively means in quick succession. So he found one, then very soon, maybe the next day or so, he found something, the second thing, and then he very soon found the third. So that is what he means by successively. So what did he find first? A carriage key. And second one was a brooch. And the third, a coin, a sixpence in a third class compartment. So then, as he picked up, especially this third object, the money, he felt, oh my God, this is real fun. It's such happiness to find something that is, unexpected. You're not expecting to find it. So it's a reward, an unexpected reward. So he says it's rare because you don't always get to find things like this. So he is not talking about this lost and found kind of experience. Yeah, that again is something that all of us have experienced. We misplace something, we keep something somewhere, and then you look for it, it's not there. And then you keep searching all over the place. You search high and low, and you call all the gods to help you. Sometimes it's a document. That usually happens with me. A very important document which has to be presented somewhere, and I keep it somewhere carefully. At the last moment, when the time has come for the use of the document, I cannot find it. Sometimes it's the key. When everything is ready, you're out, you're going out, and so you're packed, and all your family members are ready. And the last thing you have to do is get out of the house and lock your house. And the key has disappeared. And then you look everywhere for the key. Everybody gets upset. And then finally, you find it. So that experience you have all, I guess all of you have come across. And this recalls a very interesting story that I read long back in this Reader's Digest magazine. Long back, I guess 10 to 15 years back. I read a story about lost, it was an article about things that were lost and found. And there is one particular incident that has remained in my memory ever since. It's about a woman who lost her diamond ring. Her husband had gifted her a diamond ring as a wedding gift, and or an anniversary gift, I think. And she was, I mean, she wore it on her finger, and she was engaged in doing so many household chores. And finally, she suddenly noticed that the ring was missing. She was so upset, and the whole family went about searching everywhere. She had worked in the kitchen, so they searched in the kitchen. She had worked in the garden, and they went about all over the garden and all possible places where she would have left the ring. They went there, and the ring was not found. And then she was very upset. But then over the years, at least for a few, not years at least, I think for a few months at least, that was forgotten. And then I mean, for a few months, I mean, and after a few months, she, of course, gave it up. She thought it's lost, gone forever. And then what happened was one day she had plucked fresh carrots from her garden. This was many months later. She had plucked fresh carrots from the garden, and then she came into the kitchen and she was washing them. And then she noticed something gleaming. And then she saw that at the top of the carrot, you know, the carrot, and then there is a leafy part there at the joint where the carrot meets the leaves, where the orange part meets the green part, there was the ring. It had fallen somewhere into the in the garden when she was working there, and it had gone beneath. Uh, and then what happened was when the carrot came up, it grew along with this diamond ring, and she found the ring, and she was so happy. And that was such a beautiful you know, incident. And I always remember that somehow. Whenever I see a carrot with this leafy top, I always remember this lady and how she found her lost ring. Now, here, that was just a digression. Now, coming back to this particular essay, he's not talking about lost and found things. It's just about things that you just happen to find. And again, like when we find such things, when you find a coin or when you see something lying on the road, generally we don't pick it up because we feel that it's not right to do that because it doesn't belong to us. So often it's very common that we see such things. You find coins lying there, but you never pick it up. Most of us don't. And then uh, and but if it's something a little valuable, we might take it. And like at college, I know how it is. Like when something valuable is lost, it is brought to the teacher. Like for example, somebody misplaces a mobile phone, or maybe a gold a chain, or a earring. So then such things you don't ignore, and immediately, as law-abiding citizens, what do? We take it and we hand it over to somebody responsible, maybe to the teacher or maybe to the office staff. Otherwise, generally, we don't pick up things like that. But then um, he just talks about this experience of finding things. Let's see what he has to say. So Lucas tells us how for a long time he hadn't found anything at all, and then he found these three objects which we already mentioned. So the carriage key is not very useless because there is no point in getting just a key of something. And then he found a brooch. Brooch is pronounced as brooch, and a brooch is an ornamental a pin which it's a classic accessory. It has been used since the time of Romans, where they used to use this ornamental pin to clasp their cloth at the shoulder. So an ornamental pin. Sometimes I have seen women wearing it, even not women of our times, older women wearing a brooch. I'm wearing a brooch here on the sari. Sometimes it is on in Western countries. They often wear it, a very beautiful one with a floral design with precious stones. This is where it is worn, a pin. Okay, that is a brooch. And it brings me also to another word. which is spelled Broach, which is also pronounced as a brooch. And this word happens to be a verb. And where do you use it? One, you say that it is a kind of to raise a difficult topic for discussion. Like after many days of hesitation, I decided to broach the subject of my marriage to my parents. So something like that. That is the meaning of the word broach, Broach. It has also got another meaning, to pierce a container of something in order to extract the liquid. You kind of open it, or make a hole through a casket or a container. That is also called broaching. So here we are talking about this brooch that he found, but what he did with the brooch, we don't know. And then the third object that he found was a sixpence, a coin. And then he says that when he picked up the third one, he felt really happy. And he says it's rare, you don't always find things like this. And then he says, I have in a lifetime that now and then appalls me by its length, found almost nothing. Now, Lucas lived up to the age of 70. And he says, I don't know when he wrote this essay, maybe somewhere when he was in the late middle age, maybe. So he says that I am often surprised at how long I have lived. And during this span of my lifetime, I haven't really found many things. These three things this week, a brown paper packet, these three things a week. So he gives us a list of the things that he has found in all his life till then, some 50 years or so that he has lived, because somewhere he mentions about these 50 years. And so he says, these three things that I already mentioned. And then before that, when I was 7 years old, I found a brown paper packet and it had 8 pennies and 1/2 penny. That was a find. That was a treasure. And so he found, that is another thing that he found. Then on the grass in the New Forest, when I was about 20, a $1/2 piece. So the first one was when he was 7. Then when he was 20 years old, he found a $1/2 piece lying in the grass in this place called New Forest. And then at Brighton, not long after, a gold brooch of just sufficient value to make it decent to take it to the police station. And so he says, from which a year later, no one having claimed it, it was returned to me. So then he had before too found a brooch, because as I said that those days, at those times, I guess it was common for women to wear brooches. And so he found a brooch, a gold brooch, and he understood that it is valuable. And so he decided to hand it over to the police. Because as I mentioned earlier, we don't like to keep things, especially valuable things that don't belong to us. Especially when you know that somebody else must be desperately searching for it, you don't feel that it's fair to keep it with you. You decide to return it to somebody who is in authority. And so that's what he did too. He took this brooch that he had found earlier to the police station, and after 1 year, since nobody had come to claim the brooch, it was returned to him because he was the one who handed it over. So the police returned it to him. These constitute nearly half a century's haul. Half a century is 50 years. So he says, if you look at all the list of lost things that I found in the first 50 years of my life, this is it. Just so many, so few of them. I might add, now and then perhaps, a safety pin, pencil, some other trifle which, however well supplied with such articles or maybe, cannot be acquired from a clear sky without a thrill. So he says sometime even after that I have found very small things, trifles, like maybe safety pins, pencils, something like that. What is a trifle? Something that's very, very inexpensive, cheap, a bauble. And he says even that makes you very happy. When you find a pencil that it doesn't belong to you, but then it is there on your table and you can take and use it, you kind of feel a small bit of thrill. Even Mr. Rockefeller, I take it, would not have been unmoved that he, instead of myself, stumbled on the treasure between Stony Cross and Boulderwood. So he says that anybody would be happy. And he says, even Mr. Rockefeller. Now, what is this reference to Mr. Rockefeller? Rockefeller refers to John Davidson Rockefeller, who is the wealthiest American and the richest person in modern history. He was a business magnate and an immensely rich person. So that's the last word for being rich, Mr. Rockefeller. So he is even Mr. Rockefeller who wants nothing, who has everything that he can, aspire for, that he can buy with his money. Even he, if he finds something lying there, he will definitely feel thrilled, because that is how one feels when you find something. To be given such things is not a comparable experience. So he says sometimes you are given things in the sense that somebody comes and gives you something. But he says that cannot be compared with the experience of finding things. Finding things and giving things are two different things altogether. With a gift, intention, consciousness, preparation coming, to say nothing of obligation later. Because if it's a case of a gift, there is a lot of things going on before you buy a gift. You should have an intention of giving a gift to somebody, and then you have to be conscious about what you're going to buy. You have to look at the taste of the person, what he likes, what he needs. And then you have to prepare, in the sense you have to, in case you don't have money, you have to save money for it. And then you have to go to the place where you get this thing and buy it. So there's a lot of, procedure preceding a gift. And what about after giving a gift? Then you have the obligation, in the sense that when you receive a gift from somebody, uh, it is, even without saying, it goes that at some later date, you should also give that person a return gift. Or the person who gives you a gift might also expect that I have given him this, maybe he'll give me something else later. Like, sometimes when you exchange food, not exchange, if your neighbor, we always do that. Your neighbor cooks something special in her house, and she puts it into a box and she gives you a share. And so often when you eat it up very quickly, and then when you return, you always feel bad to return this empty box. So you make something and put it into that box and you give it to her. So that is what happens with gifts. When you receive it, and after you receive it, there is a lot of complication. So the event is also complicated and therefore shorn of its glory by the second person, since the gift must be given. But suddenly dropping one's eyes to be aware of a coin, that is sheer rapture. So then that is not the case with finding something. You just casually look down and there you find a coin. Wow, that is sheer pleasure. Rapture is happiness, pleasure. Other things can be exciting too, but a coin is best, because a coin is rarely identifiable by a previous owner. And I'm naturally confining myself to those things, the ownership of which could not possibly be traced. So he says, anything that you find is exciting, but then the best thing is to find money, a coin, or maybe a currency note. Because, yeah, of course, he doesn't mention the note. That was my contribution. So he only talks about coins, because a coin cannot be identified by the previous owner, because everybody has coins. How do you know that your coin, the one that you had in your pocket, is different from the one that the other person is holding in his hand? There is no way to distinguish, because coins and currency, they keep passing from one hand to another. So it cannot be identified. So that means when you get a coin, you can immediately use it. You can go and buy something with it. Nobody is going to say that this is a stolen coin or this coin is not yours, because a coin is rarely identifiable by a previous owner. And nobody is going to come and say that's my coin, unless of course the person sees you picking it up. Nobody can claim it. And I'm naturally confining myself to those things, the ownership which could not possibly be traced. So he says that I always prefer things that like this, where you cannot really trace ownership. To find things which have to be surrendered is as impure a joy as the world contains, and no theme for this pen. And he says, you find something and then having to give it back. It's a horrible thing, he says. It's as impure a joy as the world contains. It's one of the most unhappy things. You find something, you think, oh, it's mine, and then you have to return it. Maybe the owner comes asking for it, or maybe it's valuable, and so you have to give it off to the police or whatever. That's not a happy experience. Real happiness comes when you find something like a coin and it's all yours and you can use it for your own, pleasure. Um, and he says, I don't even want to write about uh, finding things and giving them back. That's why it's no theme for this pen, he says. Now, the special quality of the act of finding something with its consequent acceleration is half unexpectedness and half separateness. There being no warning and the article coming to you by chance, no one is to be thanked, no one to be owed anything. So he says, what is it that makes this finding things special? There are two, and this acceleration is the excitement. Where does it come from? From two factors. One is the half unexpectedness, because you're not expecting it at all. And some people find, really, it's not like finding, sometimes you find something very valuable, maybe an entire purse stuffed with money, and then you don't know what to do, where to give it. It can be anything. So it is and especially you're not expecting to find something. You're just going your way very casually, and then it's like a gift from heaven. The unexpectedness is something that makes it really thrilling, and the separatedness and the separateness, in the sense that uh, like there is, you don't have to, you it's kind of you are not obliged to anybody. Like the gift, if you take a gift from somebody, you should return it, or you should be grateful to that person. Here, I think that is what he means by separateness, in the sense that there is this detachment, because you don't know whose this is. So you don't have to explain to anybody. You don't have to owe any, you don't owe anything to anybody. What you find, and you don't have to thank anybody. What you find is yours, and it's by no fault of yours that you found it. So nobody can blame you either. So that separateness, that detachment, I guess, is what he's talking about. In short, you have achieved the greatest human triumph. You have got something for nothing. So that's something all of us agree, that the greatest human triumph is to get something for nothing. You don't do anything and things just come to you. Isn't that wonderful? That is the true idea. The nothing must be absolute. One must never have looked, never have had any finding intention or even hope. So he says, see, for nothing. That is the special quality of this whole thing. You didn't expect anything. You had no intention of finding anything. You didn't even have hope of finding something when this thing appears in front of you. So that is the pleasure. And you agree with this idea that he tells about, you have got something for nothing, isn't it? Because we always like it when somebody gives us something free. That's why all these supermarkets and stalls always advertise that if you buy something, you'll get something free. And so that free is always what attracts you. So similar sentiments here too. To look for things is to change the whole theory, to rob it of its divine sense. So he says, now looking for something and finding it is a different thing altogether. Just like we said earlier, somebody giving you a gift and you finding something unexpected is different. Same way here he says, to look for something and to find it, of course, it gives you happiness. You lost something important and you get it back. Definitely it will make you happy, but that's another experience altogether. To look for things is to change the whole theory, to rob it of its divine suddenness, to become anxious, even avaricious, to partake of the nature of a rag picker, the chiffonier, of those strange men that one notices walking with bent heads along the shore after a storm. So he says there is no thrill in that. There is no divine suddenness. It doesn't, you search for something and you find something. It's not as if God gave it to you as a gift. It was by your, some kind of mistake that you placed it somewhere. And the searching itself is a punishment for your carelessness. and then you are anxious because you are afraid that you will not find it. You're so worried that you have lost it. So there is this anxiety when you're looking for something. And then sometimes when you look for something, it's not exactly lost and found, that it may be something that you have lost and you are looking to find it, or it must be simply that you're looking so that you will find something that will bring you some kind of maybe benefit, money or whatever. So even avaricious is being greedy, because it comes from the word avarice, A-V-A-R-I-C-E, which means an excessive greed for wealth or for gain. That is avarice, and avaricious is the adjective of avarice. To partake of the nature of the rag picker, and again to look for something, to walk around looking for something, is like the rag picker. What does a rag picker do? The chiffonnier is the French word, which also means the rag picker, the fortune hunter. And so what does a rag picker look for? He's got a big bag on his shoulder, and the rag pickers, they look for something that can be changed into money. Sometimes it might be plastic bottles. You must have seen rag picker, the children rag pickers on the roadside. They might be looking for plastic bottles or some such thing that can be sold so that it can be recycled and they can get money from that. And sometimes those strange men that one notices walking with bent heads along the shore after a storm. And it seems sometimes you find men walking on the beaches, especially after a storm. They walk with bent heads because they are looking to see whether anything precious has been washed ashore after the storm. Nonetheless, that was a great moment once in the island of Caul, when after 2 hours systematic searching I found a plover's nest. So he says, of course, I remember an incident where I went searching for something, and he tells us how he searched for systematic searching, that was for 2 hours, to find something. And what was he looking for? The plover's nest. The plover is a bird that you usually find by the seaside and of course in other places too. And so he was looking. If the plover builds its nest in the mud, in the sand, and so he remembers the thrill that he felt when he found, the intense systematic searching, when he found the plover's nest that he was looking for. Now that is a different kind of an experience. So altogether he tells us that looking for things and finding things is again very different from simply finding things. Finding things is at once so rare and pure a joy that to trifle with it is peculiarly heartless. Yet there are people so wantonly in need of sport as to do so. So he says, see, since this is such a rare thing and such a happy, joyful thing, I feel that it is quite, heartless, cruel to make a joke of this. But yet he says, I have come across people who make a sport of this, because some people, they play pranks on others, and because they know that everybody likes to find things. So taking advantage of this very simple pleasure that people have in finding things, some cruel people play pranks on them. That is what he's talking about here. Everyone knows of the purse laid on the path or pavement beside a fence, which, as the excited passerby stoops to pick it up, is twitched through the palings by its adherent string. So that is one common joke that some children play. Sometimes naughty children or pranksters, they attach a purse to a string in such a way that the string cannot be seen immediately, and they keep one end of the string in their hands and put the purse on the street. So when a passerby sees this purse, it is a natural tendency for people to, as Lucas says, to pick up things that are lying. So when a passerby sees this purse and stoops to pick it up, what happens is immediately the person who is waiting inside would twitch it away from his hands and take it off through the palings of the fence. So this would create great embarrassment, but this is a common prank that is often played on people, because everybody knows that it's difficult to resist when something is lying there in front of you, and it's very difficult to resist this urge to pick it up. There is also the coin attached to a thread which can be dropped to the street and instantly pulled up again, setting every eye at a pavement scrutiny. Could there be lower tricks? So he says yet another thing that some naughty people do is they tie a coin to a string, and when somebody comes to pick it up, they pull it off. They haul it away with the string. So Lucas is not at all happy about this, because he feels it's so unfair. It's such a cruel thing, because finding things is a source of such pure pleasure, and it's really cruel to turn it out to be a prank. Could there be lower tricks? I fear so, because some years ago, in the great days of the rendezvous of bohemians in the Strand, known as the Marble Halls, a wicked wag, I have been told, once nailed a bad but plausible sovereign to the floor and waited events. In the case of the purse and string, the butts are few and far between, and there is usually only a small audience to rejoice in their discomfiture. But the denouement of the cruel comedy, of which acquisitiveness and cunning were the warp and woof at the Marble Halls, was only too bitterly public. So he says that sometimes people take this too far, and he gives us the example of how a few years back he heard that in the great days of the rendezvous of the Bohemians are people who do not adhere to the common laws of the land, who are kind of rebels, who are revolutionary in their thoughts, usually artists who grow their hair long and wear all kind of outlandish dresses, and artists, painters, and certain groups of people who you would call bohemians. And Strand is a major street in Westminster in central London, and so he says that, now what is this word rendezvous? RENDEEZVOUS. It's a French word which means a meeting place, or a meeting, rendezvous. So it is said that a few years ago, when at the place where these bohemians usually used to get together, the place was called Marble Halls, there a wicked wag, a woman. So this lady, she it seems she nailed a coin to the floor, and that too, it was a bad coin, I guess, something that was not usable, but then when you look at it, you wouldn't know that it is not usable. And so she got it fixed to the floor, and she waited to see what happened. And then he says, now in the case of in the case that was earlier mentioned about the purse and a string, he says the butts are few. Now what is a butt? Butt is the when you play a prank on somebody, the person who is the victim of your prank, that person is the butt, as you would say that he was the butt of ridicule at the party because he wore a very funny dress. So that is the butt. So he says that when you're walking on the road and such incidents, it doesn't happen every time, and so such butts are few and far between. And another thing is that only a few people, like when everybody is busy walking up and down, just a few people who pass you by, only they might witness this, that you bent to pick up a purse and it was taken away, and it is not very embarrassing. Whereas that is not the case in a gathering, when you are in a big hall, when there are so many people around you, and when you stoop to pick a coin that has been fixed to the ground and you don't know it, and you stoop to pick it up and you try to take it, and you realize that it doesn't come, and people all around stand and stare at you. That would be the most embarrassing thing. So he says, but the denouement of the cruel comedy, of which, now what is a denouement? Denouement is usually the concluding part of a drama. You know that in the structure of a play, how a play, there are various stages, and you have this denouement, when things are at the peak events, the peak of events, and from there onwards you slowly go towards the climax. So he says what he means here is the denouement of the cruel comedy. It means the towards the end of this cruel comedy with which somebody had planned at the marble halls, it was too bitterly public. Now this warp and woof, this is an expression that means the essential foundation of or the base of any structure. It comes from architecture actually, and the essential foundation or base of any structure or organization. That is the meaning of warp and woof. So acquisitiveness and cunning is the warp and woof of this comedy. That is this cunning, only cunning people would think of doing such things or making fun of people in this manner. So he says that that was too bitterly public. I am told such is human resourcefulness in guile that very few of those who saw the coin and marked it down as their own went for it right away, because had they done so the action might have been noticed and the booty claimed. So he says that people who had witnessed such scenes say that it is highly entertaining, in the sense that suppose a person finds a coin lying there, a sovereign is of course a pretty expensive coin, and so when you see a sovereign lying on the floor, most people would want to pick it up and make it their own. And again, you just can't pick it up that easily, because you know that it's not right. It doesn't belong to you. It must have fallen from somebody else's pocket. Any moment somebody else can claim it. So it's a risky business to pick up a sovereign that has fallen down, that's lying down on the ground. And so what people do is they become highly resourcefulness at that time, and they pretend and they do all sorts of things. So it is said that when a person finds it and they decide, okay, I'm going to take this, what they do is they don't want anybody to notice them. Now the booty is this treasure that you have got, that is lying there in front of you, that is your booty, and you want to claim it. So what you do is, this is what usually happens, the discoverer who has seen this sovereign would look swiftly around. He would look to see, why is he looking around? To see whether somebody has seen or somebody is watching him. And he looks around stealthily, means in a very covert manner, without anybody noticing you. You look around and you take a quick look around, and then gradually and with every affectation of nonchalance, with which to those in the secret watching from the corners of their wicked eyes was so funny as to be agony. So then these people, they behave as though nothing has happened, with an affectation. Affectation is pretension of nonchalance. Nonchalance means pretending as though it doesn't, you're not at all bothered about something, and so pretending to be absolutely in control of your emotions, and as if nothing whatsoever has happened, you slowly go nearer and nearer to this coin that you have seen, and then you would put your leg on it, you would stand on it so that nobody else will see it anymore. And what is given in brackets is that the person who has stuck or fixed or pinned the coin there, he is surely watching you, because they know that they are on the lookout for somebody to come and take this and become the butt of their ridicule. So they must be watching from a distance, and they must be finding the whole thing very funny, the way this man is pretending as if nobody else has seen it, and how he is slowly edging towards the sovereign, and how he is placing his foot on it. So all this is very funny, it's hilarious actually for those who have planned this prank. This accomplished, he would relax into something like real naturalness, and practically certain of his prey, take things easily for a moment or so. Often, I am told, the poor dupe would, at this point, whistle the latest tune. So now what do you do? What's the next step after you put your feet on this sovereign? You just stand there for some time as if nothing has happened, as though you have all the very naturally, as if you were just relaxing. You just stand there. Now here the prey refers to the sovereign on the ground, and then they stand there, and he says that I have even heard that some people at this point would whistle the latest tune. They would even whistle a popular tune to show that they are completely relaxed, whereas their mind is fully occupied with this coin and how to get it into the pocket. But outwardly he would appear to be the most relaxed person, and he would even hum a popular tune. Even now, however, he dared not abandon subterfuge, or his prize, were he seen to pick it up, might have to be surrendered or shared. So he doesn't abandon subterfuge. Now what is subterfuge? Subterfuge is a deceit or a trick used to hide or to get something. So here he is in the process of hiding the coin so that he can get it, and because he knows that if somebody else sees this, he will have to surrender it or to share it with that person who finds it. So he stands there, and the next move, what does he do next? He takes his handkerchief and drops it there on the floor, right on top of the coin. He moves his foot slightly and he drops his coin exactly on, he drops his handkerchief exactly on the coin. So the idea being to pick up both it and the sovereign together. So then now what is he planning to do? He is going to bend down. Nobody would blame you for bending down and pick up a handkerchief that has fallen. So he is going to pick up the handkerchief, and along with it, hidden inside, concealed inside the handkerchief, he is going to pick up the sovereign too. But then such explosions of laughter as followed upon his failure to do so, I am informed, rarely have been heard. So he says that the real fun begins when he tries to pick up the handkerchief with the sovereign. What happens? So when he tries to pick up the handkerchief and the sovereign, because now he would realize to his great shock that the coin would not come off. The sovereign is stuck and it is not going to come off even if you pull it. And then what happens? The hidden watchers, the hidden pranksters, they will burst out into explosions of laughter, and he says that I am informed. Now in brackets he is intervening, the author is intervening time to time to say that, see, I have not experienced this, I have only heard people saying this. So it makes me wonder whether that is true, whether he himself has been the butt of this kind of a prank. But he keeps telling us, see, I haven't gone through this, I am only informed, people have told me that it is like this. And so much of laughter follows that people burst out laughing because they have pranked a man, they have fooled a man. Such was the conspiracy of the nailed sovereign, which now and then the victim, shaking the chagrin from him, would without shame himself join and become a delighted spectator of his successor's humiliation. So he says that this conspiracy is when you plot and plan in order to trick somebody or to put somebody in trouble. So he says that this conspiracy of the nailed sovereign is quite entertaining, that sometimes even the victim, shaking the chagrin from him. Chagrin is this unpleasant feeling of being tricked, or this irritated feeling of being made a fool of. So he says often this man, he would join the others to wait and see who the next victim would be, and his successor is, after some time, surely somebody else will come, they will do the same thing. The exact procedure will be done by that person too. And so sometimes, in some cases, people are so embarrassed they run away from there, but in some cases they find it so funny that they stand there along with the others, and they too wait for somebody to come and do the same thing, and they burst out laughing on the successor's humiliation. Can you conceive of a more impish hoax? So this author, E.V. Lucas, he's quite outraged, and he says, can there be anything more mischievous than this? Can you conceive here is think of a more impish. An imp is a naughty spirit, a kind of a goblin who does mischievous things. So impish generally means mischievous or naughty, but in this context it means wicked or devilish. And what is a hoax? A hoax is a plan to deceive someone. Like sometimes the police stations, they receive hoax. There is a hoax, like in the sense that somebody calls them and tells them that there is a bomb planted in the railway station. It's going to go off in maybe 1 hour or so, and then the police have to rush there and they have to evacuate the place, and they have to bring in somebody, an expert, to look for the bomb, and there is all that. And then what happens? They find that it was a false call. So that is a kind of a hoax. So tricking somebody, planning something in order to fool somebody, that is called a hoax. So he says, isn't this a very cruel joke? Can you even think of anything more cruel than this? Because it's very cruel. It's such a happy thing to find something, and it is not right to make fun of that, aspect, and take advantage of this very natural tendency of picking up something that you see on the road. So then that's why he says, can you conceive of a more impish hoax? So that sentence he says in a very outraged tone, as if he doesn't like it. But look at the next sentence. But I should like to have witnessed it. He says, but then I would have enjoyed it if I were there. So as far as you are not the butt of ridicule, it's fine. So he says, though I know it's a very cruel thing to do, it's a very devilish kind of a prank, but then I'm sure I would have enjoyed watching somebody going through this humiliation. So that again is a human tendency, you see. You like it when somebody else is put in a difficult position, when you can laugh at others. That's why I guess you have so many on the internet. You have so many videos where people play pranks on others. Some of them, of course, are very innocuous in the sense that very harmless, but some I find really troubling, and so there are some I simply don't watch because I feel it's very cruel. But light-hearted pranks are always fun. So he says, though this is not right, I would love to witness such a prank. So that is all that E.V. Lucas has to say on finding things. And when we read this essay, I think most of us can identify with what he's saying. Now he is an Englishman who lived in Britain. So whether you are an Englishman or an Indian or a Chinese or whoever you are, certain traits of human beings are universal, and everywhere this and even sometimes I watch on the YouTube, there are videos where it's a kind of experiment that people do on human behavior, and they drop or they place some important valuable things, for instance a purse full of cards, your cash cards and credit cards, debit cards, and a thick wad of money, or sometimes it's a mobile phone, or sometimes it's a laptop. It's abandoned on the roadside, and they with the camera they wait somewhere else, and sometimes people just walk by, they don't bother. Some people take it and they try to find out if there is an address so they can call and inform somebody. Some people slowly put it into their pockets and just walk away as if there's nothing untoward happening. So it is this tendency that all human beings have, and so we can very easily identify with this particular essay titled On Finding Things, written by E.V. Lucas. And I'm sure it's going to continue to entertain us even in the years that come by. The next generations too will enjoy this essay, because this is one feature that we human beings are going to have till the end.